Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
And a good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout, which is presented by Two Hoots Hard Iced Tea, live on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, as well as those watching on YouTube. It is brought to you by Two Hoots Hard Iced Tea, a Boulder Real Brew Tea. Don't just give a hoot, give two. Matt Iwanyk and Zachticum with you here. And joining us today, Duane Wysynski. Did I get that?
It's pretty good, yeah.
But that's not it. I didn't get it right then.
Wysynski, but you're
Wysynski.
good. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit quicker on the Wysynski. Okay, I got that. World Dodgeball Federation president. We're going to get into some dodgeball today, as the headquarters of the World Dodgeball Federation is in Edmonton, which is quite wild. I would have never figured that out or guessed that, but that's where it is. And it was Doug McLean who connected us, if I'm not mistaken. How do you know Doug?
So Doug and I, you kind of get a chance to meet a lot of the sports folks here. And I had done some work with James Rossno, who was the president of Athletics Alberta. I was on the Athletics Alberta board for like 8 years. And we ended up hiring James, actually, when he came in. And James connected me with Doug McLean. The two of them had done some work together. Doug had helped me a bit when we were trying to figure out some partnership deals that we were doing for the World Championships for dodgeball that were here in Edmonton in 2022. So I got a chance to work with Doug a bit, and I kind of go back to the well. Doug works with FISU, so I keep going back to the well with Doug and asking for favors, and he's really great about that. Someday I'll do one for him.
So you worked with the athletics too? So
I work with Athletics Alberta, for a while.
So that's why you're excited about the Athletics Olympics too. And I said I can't wait for athletics to start, and you're like, me too.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
That's where that makes a lot more sense too. Then, have you been watching a lot of Olympics so far?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I can. I don't kind of do the cable thing anymore, but I try to watch online or try to follow online. With the COC has probably the worst app that's ever been made for following the Olympics. So trying to dig it up online as I can, but I do enjoy.
I've never used their app.
Oh, it's awful.
The CBC app I use that one.
Yeah, CBC's good.
That's because I just look for the schedule.
That's right.
That's because I just want to see what's coming up, and they put it's a small thing, but they put the Canadian flag next to the event that has a Canadian. And
yeah. Well, even the Paris, the official Olympic app is pretty awful. It's kind of hard to just if you just want to quickly say right here and now, who are the Canadians competing and what are they doing? It's surprisingly hard to find.
Really? Yeah, I use it online. I literally just Google Paris Olympic schedule and then try and find it on the TV. When I put it on cable, it doesn't show what sport it is. It's just day 3, prime time, whatever.
Yeah, because the main CBC channel just shows you, especially, they flip all around. Yeah. You have to go online to get the specific events, it almost seems, which we'll have Canadian soccer later today. The Canadian women, the appeal denied. So Canada, with a win over Colombia, though, moves on. That's all it takes. It's just go beat Colombia. And Colombia is actually one of their players is suspended going into that due to a couple of reds or a red card. So getting a little bit benefit there, the Canada soccer mess. It's got deeper today. But actually, so there's the Americans. There's always someone in the States that will each day put out the schedule of the Canadian athletes. This is what time they compete. And at one point, somebody in Canada needs to just this is when Summer McIntosh is competing at this time, and boom, 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 boom. So we could just follow that. It'd
be a lot easier. It's like a wild goose chase because sometimes I miss it. I guess Ferg was in here yesterday just to come by, and he was saying that he wanted to watch rugby, but he missed a lot of it, and then he didn't really know when the schedule was. Maybe you didn't dive deep enough, but it's got to be easier to find. Which, I mean, it is after a couple searches. You dig a little bit, but with the app CBC Gem or whatever, if it says a little Canada flag, it's a lot easier. But to have the full list where okay, this time I can watch it here, do this. Oh, Summer McIntosh, boom, okay. Can watch boxing, whatever. Easy. Wouldn't miss a second.
The one thing CBC app does really well is tell you when somebody won gold, though. They're very quick with that, so I like that. Or giving you a heads up that somebody's about to go compete, for a big medal. So not the surprising ones, but that's how when you we were going for judo. Judo a couple days ago that popped up. We're going for gold. And we won gold, which was great. Sorry, had to get a little cough out there.
No, it's all good.
Let's get to Hangout Headlines, which is brought to you by the Ranch Golf and Country Club, offering premier conditions, top-notch service, unmatched value. Book your tee time today by visiting theranchgolf.com. Okay, let's get right into dodgeball here, because I played it for a couple years with the ESSC. You said before the show, like we were talking, that you got your start with ESSC. I love dodgeball. It's a lot of fun. It's a big workout. How do you get involved with the World Dodgeball Federation, let alone become the president?
Yeah. So when I say years ago, like what, 15 or 16 years ago at this point, my wife was working for a company. They had a team in the ESSC. She asked me to go and play with the team, which she probably 100% regrets doing that now. Without question. Went and played, had a good time, brought some friends in, played with some friends. And it just kind of struck me, like I was a big sports guy. Like I said, I was on the board of directors for Athletics Alberta at this point in time. I was doing work with like Association Track and Field Statistician. I was working with SABR, Society of American Baseball. I was doing all this sports stuff I loved. And it just kind of seemed weird that for a sport like dodgeball that so many people played and enjoyed, that there was no structured stream for it, right? There was events and tournaments and championships, but there was no real structured stream. So we worked with a group of folks to look at, there was some fundamental structure in Canada at the time. A group of us came together and said, well, let's put a bit more meat to it. Let's register Dodgeball Canada. Let's make it, let's work towards an NGO. And then when we did that, we started working with, other countries, and there again was like a loose group of countries playing at that time, maybe 6 or 7, and then got more involved in that and said, well, we should add some structure to this too. I mean, if we want people to take the sport seriously, if we want to have a pathway that leads to higher level competitions, then we kind of need to do the boring bureaucratic administration work in the background. So we did that. And so now, I mean, when I got into it with the World Dodgeball Federation, there was about 7 or 8 countries. We've got over 70 full members now, worldwide countries, and probably about 120 that we work with for dodgeball. So it grew fast. It's been great, and it's been a lot of fun.
So is the headquarters just now stay in Edmonton, or is it? You didn't
Well, okay.
Like, is this going to be now the home of dodgeball in the world?
So we incorporated here in 2017. We brought the World Championships here in 2022. We've got the World Youth Open coming down to Calgary actually in February of 2025. Whether we stay here, I don't know. I mean, the reality is every once in a while you get a call from another city, especially one that's kind of wants to emphasize, build, continue, grow its sports roots, and they say, well, maybe you can come here. We're a nice partner because we're cheap and easy. But we've got a lot of players and we've got a lot of action. We do a lot of events. And so, I live in Edmonton. I'm not moving from Edmonton. We've got a great volunteer structure here. But the directors for the WDBF are all around the world. So where we end up is really just going to depend on what makes most sense for us.
Oh, I think also nowadays, just with Zoom and stuff,
everything's
so easy nowadays to just connect, and it doesn't matter where you go with. So like, let's go. So you got a World Championship coming up like in a week and a half.
Yes.
Here, out in Austria.
Yeah.
How much goes into planning a World Championship?
Yeah.
Like I did like a golf tournament, and I thought that was a lot of work. I'm assuming that's nothing to what you're preparing for next week.
It's a lot. So we've got, part of our issue, and I say issue, it's not a bad thing, but like I said, we kind of went from having 7, 8 members to now 70, and we've kind of grown really fast in a really short period of time, which is wonderful news a lot of the time, but not always, right? And if you've ever had a business and tried to scale a business that fast, we're a volunteer organization. We're not an IOC group, so it's not like we get funding from the Olympics. So for us, growing fast has come with a lot of problems. But when we put on our event like the World Championships, that's kind of like our peak event. So we want as many countries to come as possible because this is what they all kind of work towards. And over the years, that number gets higher and higher. So for Austria, we're looking at about just under 40 countries that'll be attending, about 1,000 athletes. And it's how do you schedule 6 divisions with 150 teams without breaking the budget? I mean, if you look at the budget for most of the events, even, if you're familiar with the big events that come to Edmonton, your 7-figure budgets, we keep it in 6, and it's barely scratching 6. right? So we have to keep our costs low. So a lot of the work is really, it's volunteers, it's volunteer communication, volunteer, like getting member federations to step up to the plate with fundraising, self-funded teams and doing all the work there. So it is a lot of work, but it's so very focused on logistics in the absence of paying someone to do the logistical pieces that you would normally have for an event.
That makes sense. So 6 divisions? What
6 divisions?
6 divisions are?
So there's 2 formats. There's a foam format, which probably a lot of people watching, if you're in Canada, you've played at some point or another. The red rubber ball format, that's gone by the wayside. The schools aren't going to let us do that. We can't do that in kids leagues.
Is that just because it hurts too much, or?
Yeah, there was a big thing a couple of years ago about dodgeball being a bully sport, and I've never been on the radio so much as I was during that week. But we don't do the red rubber ball. So we do these foam balls with a small polyurethane coating on them, so they still smack, and the hardest throwers can throw them 120 plus kilometers an hour. So they you feel them if you get hit. It doesn't not hurt. And then the other format is what we call cloth or fabric, and they're air-filled balls, almost like volleyballs, but a little denser. And so there's those 2 disciplines, men's, women's, and mixed. So 6 divisions.
Headshots allowed?
Yes.
I gotta ask. Okay, you are allowed
Yes.
headshots in that one.
Yes.
Okay.
And do they all have the same rules throughout all the divisions?
So with cloth and foam, they're a little different. So the easiest way to explain it is foam balls are a little squishy. So they're easier to throw but harder to catch. And they're thrown a little bit more with a baseball motion. The cloth balls they're the same size, but they have no give to them. So they're a little harder to throw but a little easier to catch. That's a simplification, but it's kind of how it goes. And they also bounce a little harder off people. So the style of the game is a little different. The way you throw, the way you strategize is a little different. And so because of that, the rules are slightly different. Very slightly different. But the reason we have the 2 divisions is because the organization played with foam exclusively. The European Dodgeball Federation joined us in 2019, but they had always played with cloth. They didn't want to give it up. So we said, okay, we'll just take on both formats. We'll get our members to kind of play both, and then over time, we'll figure out where we land.
So how small is the difference, are we talking here, between the 2 rules,
With the rule
foam
sets?
and...
So foam balls play 6 balls, cloth with 5, but there are small differences. Like in foam, if I hit you, if you're on the 2 of you on the same team, I'm playing against you, I hit you, it bounces, and you catch it, I'm out, you're safe. In cloth, that's not allowed. You have to save your own ball. He can't save you. I'll still be out if you catch it, but you're out too. In foam, that's not the case. But there's a bunch of small rules like that. In the cloth game, they played at the clock. So there's a 3-minute time. And at the end of 3 minutes, if you've got the numbers advantage, you win. In foam, you have to eliminate the other team.
Completely.
And if that drags on for 5, 6, 7 minutes, then so be it. So it's a bit of a different strategy. In cloth, you try to play quickly, get a numbers advantage, and protect it. In foam, you play a little more slowly and strategically because you got to get through every person. So it just depends on.
Ooh, I never that. That is a bit of a strategy in the other one.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, you might like foam, but if you're a hockey fan, maybe you like cloth. It just depends.
I just like the idea that the protecting your game, get that early advantage, and then hold it, protect it. Because even when I played ESSE, there was a strategy you eventually learned that you needed if you wanted to be good at dodgeball. And again, that's very low level, but it was if you just go and throw randomly, you're not if you're disorganized as a team. Yeah, you might win the occasional game or whatever, but the team that's organized is going to whoop you.
Well, and it's kind of funny because we find that a lot with tournaments. If they're open tournaments, you always get guys come in and they're big dudes and they throw hard, or they're baseball players. And yeah, they throw really hard and they're athletic. But if you throw one-on-one on a person who plays a lot, they're going to catch you a lot of the time, right? So you have to do group throws. You have to be a bit clever. You have to have some kind of tactical approach.
They'll bait you with the catching. They'll just get if it's one-on-one, you each have a ball. They'll go for the catch by just dumping their ball and catching it, and they beat you.
You just block the whole time, where you a lot of guys will come at you right at the chest because they feel they're gonna come and pound, but that's the easiest to catch, right? It's like if you played basketball and you were a great shooter and you could shoot from anywhere on the court, that's awesome, but and if you play varsity, you're going to get killed in that environment because there's a million other things you need to do well. So
quickly on basketball, Zachticum hit a 3-pointer yesterday at his what do you guys call it? Like mixed sport or
It is ESSC. Yeah, ESSC. That's a tongue twister for me, but yeah, no, it was just like rec basketball. Me and Trev
you
play on the
guys playing
same
like
team.
a rotating, like it's a multi-sport.
Yeah,
league.
it's like a multi-sport thing. So we started with chook ball, and then we played ultimate frisbee, and then supposed to play basketball last week, but it was pushed to this week because of the weather and all that stuff. So yeah,
But you
we
drained
play
the
like
3.
6 or 7 sports. Yeah, and it
So you're
took
the
me like
Steph
almost
Curry
a
of the
whole-
office. That's who we're going with.
I guess so.
There is
Dusty, you hear it?
I don't think Dusty's around right now.
I'm the Steph Curry
we've got
of the office.
Steph Curry of the office. It's Zach to
I've
come
never
over
even
here.
seen you hit a shot at the hoop at the office.
Hey, that's not a real hoop
Did
though.
Did Trev see him hit a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zach,
so he's
Zach,
if
if you want to go somewhere and have a 3-point
he's a
shooting
Steph
contest,
Curry.
we can definitely do that.
He's the
Yes,
Steph
he games.
Curry.
Sorry you got thrown into the middle of
Oh,
this.
I like how it was so easy to bait you to come here for this. Like he can't hold on to it. So we've got the true Steph Curry of the office in this office right now. A couple comments in the nasty chat. Lance, my friend Megan is hard into dodgeball. Represents Canada all the time, and seems like the unofficial photographer. For VR Montenegro, coordinate and toe hunt. I sucked with the toes. I was a good catcher. I didn't have a good arm. I was a good catcher, and I could dodge really well, except my feet. Somehow I always got eliminated with my feet.
But it's where especially for bigger folks, you're not protecting your feet necessarily well. If you're tall, you've got all this real estate right from the waist down, and it's hard to catch. I mean, if you unless you're very quick and nimble. So if you look like a really successful program like Malaysia, so Canada's had a really successful program, but Malaysia is reigning world champions on the men's side. The women didn't have a great world champions last, but they've also won the world championships multiple times in the past. Their athletes are all they have a style that they go with, and all their athletes fit that style, and it's slim and quick and nimble, and you pop down and you pop up, which makes you a harder target. If you're bigger, if you stand planted, you're a target.
I couldn't jump out of the way in time. I always felt like I had more time than I did. And they would always get my feet, and I'd always get upset because it was like, my damn feet. That's what got me out. Those damn feet down there.
And that's the worst feeling too, because up high, I think waist up, like I could be pretty cautious of when a ball's incoming, but when it comes down low, it's hard to really gauge. Like sometimes for me, it would either hit the ground and then hit me, so it wouldn't count, or I'd think I'm good and I'd be running and it would hit my heel, and I'm like, yeah. Damn it.
Well, and I think too that if you're used to playing other sports, intuitively you get in front of a ball. If you're playing shortstop or second base, you get in front of a ball, even if you don't think you have a great chance. You got to make a play on it. If you're football and you're running a pattern, you're going to try to get to that ball, even if you don't think you have a play on it. In dodgeball, you don't want to do that. If you don't have a play on the ball, you have to avoid it, and so you're making a split-second decision, because the catch is always the big, the big play, the big turnaround, right? It's a 2-person turnaround. So if you're throwing at me, I have to decide in a split second, am I going to make a play on this or not? And if I don't think I can, I have to not only not make the play, but I've got to get my whole body out of the way. So that kind of intuition is just different for people who come from other sports.
And that's making a play in itself, because it's so quick where you have to actually decide if you're going to go for it, and if you miss it, like you're done. One thing that I'm wondering, because like growing up when I was playing dodgeball in school and whatever, there would always be the rule where you can't have more than one ball at a time. How does that work?
You can have as many at a time as you want.
You could hold one in each hand?
Yes. You can catch 2. You can catch 3 if you're so inclined. Yes, there is no limitation on ball control. I know like in local leagues, they kind of have this thing, but no, I mean, if I have a ball and you throw and I'm able to kind of like catch
Snag
while
it.
I'm holding, then I've got that.
Oh, okay.
And it's especially good strategy if it's me against 3 folks. I mean, I'm going to lose, but if it's me against 3 folks, I'm going to want a couple of balls in my hand, because it's going to be easier to block. And then I can block and react and still have a ball that I keep in possession. So,
Is there a timeline on how long you have to hold the ball?
So it's
You can hold the ball, I should say.
there's a 10-second limit. So Cloth and foam are slightly different, but the general rule is you've got a 10-second limit to throw a ball, and then after that the clock resets. So if my side of the court has more balls than you, the burden is on me to throw, and I've got to do that within 10 seconds.
Before, like, without even touching the ball, or like it's once you grab a ball.
Once I have once I have the numbers.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I'm playing by myself and it's me against 4 folks and they all throw at me, once those throws are made across the line, then I've got possession.
Okay.
And so I've got to find a ball, pick it up. I've got 10 seconds to get a ball and throw it.
Okay.
Do you
Otherwise,
have to throw it at them, or could
Yes.
you just throw away? Okay.
There's a 1 meter zone that is kind of like your intent zone. So I can't just
If
throw
everyone's
it.
on one side, you can't throw it to the other
Correct.
side just to get rid of it.
I have to make a legitimate throw on you, which is kind of open to interpretation if I'm actually doing that or if I'm just grounding it in front of you. But I have to make a throw on you, so I can't just like waste time and throw at the wall above you and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's quite different.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot
But
to
it keeps it moving, right?
Well, no, absolutely. That would make a lot of sense because I know with like the 10-second rule for ESSC is as soon as you pick it up, you have 10 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah.
But like we would wait to try to grab all the numbers
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
pick it up at once.
Yeah.
But that changes.
Yeah.
That would change quite a bit. Do you still play a lot?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So Dodgeball Edmonton is the league in town that that does that kind of like the high level competition, and most of the players there are the ones that go through to provincials and nationals if they play. But I've had a team there for ever and ever and ever, and I still play with most of the same guys I've played with for 10 plus years.
No way.
And it's a lot of fun, yeah.
Now you just not. Are you eligible to try to compete for Canada at this, or would you have to take yourself out? Or
No, so I was the president of Dodgeball Canada. I was one of the founding directors there in 2015, and as of December of last year, I stepped away. So I'm still past president, and I still kind of like help if they need, like, hey, what did you do 5 years ago about this thing? But so I don't do that. But while I was there, like I could have competed, I could have recused myself because the teams are selected by a different group. Like the board doesn't do anything with that. I'm just not good enough. Let's be clear. Like,
Okay.
Like in 2017, I had a team that went to nationals, and I was super happy that we did that. But even at that time, I was like 40 something, right? It's like that was just like we had a good role, and I played with a lot of younger guys who carried me. But I still play, and I play in tournaments. I have a fun time. But yeah, no, those days are long gone.
how often are Worlds?
Every 2 years.
You guys do it every 2 years.
So every offsetting year is a continental championship.
Okay.
And then the next year's world championships.
So okay, that makes sense. So every Olympic year is a World Championship year.
Yeah, well, it
it-
lines up that way.
yeah.
Yeah, but so we'll do. So we're in Austria, in Graz, Austria, in a week and a half for Worlds, and then next year we'll do like North American Championships,
the
European, and
Continentals, yeah.
everything. Yeah.
So every 2 years is a big one. How many really in between are there, like, markers?
Well, there's others. So in addition to the World Championships and the continental events, there's a lot of tournaments that we sanction and support. Tournaments in Canada, United States, Malaysia, Australia. Then we manage dodgeball for a bunch of multi-sport events. So there's like the World Police and Fire Games. There's an organization called CSIT, which you probably never heard of, but it's like a workers' labor union sports thing, and it's huge in Europe and Asia. And so we do dodgeball for them. So there's some different events that we do dodgeball in, as well as the events we do ourselves.
That
Just blows my mind, though. Like, not knowing that the headquarters for the World Dodgeball Federation is right in Edmonton, and then realizing how big of a sport dodgeball actually is, because it is such really an accessible sport, and that was one big thing for the World Dodgeball Federation, right? Inclusivity and just the accessibility of it is really there. Like, there's other sports that are so expensive to get into, and a lot of people play dodgeball because, I mean, all you need is a ball and you dodge it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's like for us, like a lot of countries that get in to the sport are often looking for ways to get. So there's kind of two streams that come to us with a new country. There's either a country that's, kind of a more like European country, Western country, and their neighbors are doing it, and they're realizing, like, one of our new teams from a couple of years ago was like Croatia, or Portugal was another new one.
Okay.
And so they're like, well, they're doing it in Spain and Austria and Germany and France. So that looks cool. We should do it. And it's easy for Europe to get around. But when they come in, they want to come in at higher performance level. Like they want to get like adults together and train and have coaches sent there and learn it so that they can go compete at the European Championships. But a lot of the countries that get involved, especially in the Caribbean, especially in Africa and parts of Asia, they want something where they can access like rural communities and get kids playing. And some sports are just prohibitive. And so like soccer is obviously the go-to, but soccer is one ball and 11 people and 22 people if you look at it that way. And it's really difficult for some kids to get engaged. With dodgeball, you have 6 people and 6 balls, 12 people and 6 balls. So engagement and participation is a lot higher, like directly. And so a lot of the countries that come to us, they want a very quick and affordable way to get their kids engaged.
Yeah, well, you can't just zone out. You could zone out in soccer as a little kid.
Oh, I
Play
used to
just
do
keeps
that.
going on. Dodgeball, if you zone out, you're getting hit by a ball.
Yeah. One of my sons used to play with another kid and pretend they were dogs while everyone else was playing soccer.
Picking grass and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Like no criticism at all. But I mean, if you're a kid and you're trying to engage in sports, but like that's kind of a fun example because my son was happy doing what he was doing. But he did play too, of course. But in the case where you're in the schoolyard and you're picked last to be on the basketball team, you might never touch the ball. Like, let's be clear. I mean, at least in dodgeball, you're engaged. And if the teacher, if the PE teacher or the coach is doing it right, then they're building like a good fellowship. They're getting the kids involved and not in a way where it's like, well, we're all picking on somebody.
Well, yeah, you can just go grab the ball. You just have to go grab it, and then you can throw it.
And then you're there, yeah.
And you're involved with it right off the bat. And it's not like you're taking the ball away from someone because there's 4, 5 other balls to pick from. Okay, so there's things that it's a lot complex. It's very deep to get into, but getting it as recognized as an IOC sport.
Yeah. So
have you, obviously you've looked into that.
Yeah. This has been like a 10-year journey.
Something that you would still be looking for, or what's the process to being an Olympic sport?
I mean, any sport aspires to be an Olympic sport because that's kind of like you've made it. You've been validated. You have access to the highest level of competition. You have access to money and sponsors and other funding. So that's the aspiration for all sports. The Olympic pathway is way more complex than people think. Like in the 10 years that I've been doing this in total, people will be like, well, have you thought about applying to the Olympics? Oh, geez, no, I never thought about it. It's not really like you fill in an application form. So there's a whole process whereby there's an organization called Sport Accord. Sport Accord is responsible for basically validating, or I'm going to say anointing because that's kind of what it is, anointing organizations to lead a sport. So you take FIFA, and FIFA is a member of Sport Accord. Well, that's complicated. They're not exactly because it's all different structure now. But the way that it used to be is FIFA, Sport Accord. There used to be an organization called GAISF used to do it, and they're now Sport Accord. Sport Accord would look at FIFA and say, you are the stewards of soccer. You're the ones that steward soccer, and you're the ones who have the rights to be that organization. They do this with all the sports, but a new sport coming into that group has to check a lot of boxes, and a lot of boxes that the old sports didn't have to check. So as an example, the new regulations are we need 60 countries. It used to be we needed 40 countries that were recognized by their national Olympic committees or their national sports authorities.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you're a new sport, you're not getting that because it's chicken and egg. Because if you are in a lot of countries, they're going to say, well, is your international federation recognized by a sport accord? No. Well, we're not recognizing you. Well, okay, so then where do we go from here? So they've changed that rule, but now it's 60 countries that have to demonstrate activity at a certain level with a certain definition for 3 years or more. So there's a lot of you have to do drug testing. You have to have coaching certification pathways. You have to have all these things that are great to have. But they move the goalposts a lot. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the Olympics, the IOC decides what's an Olympic sport and not. And that's it. And if they want to pull in, like we were saying, if they want to pull in breakdancing or if they want to pull in surfing, and they just decide that's what they want to do, that's what they do. If they decide they don't want baseball anymore, that's what they just decide, right? So for a sport like ours, we'd have to get through the first barrier of Sport Accord membership. Then after that, we'd have to become an IOC member, which is a different process. Then after that, the IOC would have to decide that, they're going to activate us and take us off the bench. There's lots of IOC sports, like World Flying Disc Ultimate is an IOC member. they are not in the Olympics, and it's going to be a tough grind for them to be in the Olympics.
Yeah, except those would be fun. I'm not gonna lie, the idea of watching like ultimate frisbee and dodgeball at the Olympics,
I'd watch it.
it'd be amazing.
There's an interesting move. I mean, you've seen this with esports specifically, but there's an interesting movement because a lot of traditional sports are fading a bit, and not because of quality or coaching, but just because of a shift in interest. And a lot of new sports, you mentioned tchoukball. Tchoukball's been around since the 60s, and they're no further along than we are in the whole process, because it's very difficult for new sports to fight against the billion-dollar corporations that are in place now. But there is a grassroots movement for a lot of like sports like ultimate to start moving forward, or spike ball, or not spike ball, round net is what they call it. And we do see that happening, but the IOC is not quick to respond. And I think there'll be a while before sports like ours are kind of advanced in that.
Well, even if you're the Olympics, why not create like the secondary Olympics almost, like and like have the, one, there's more money for the IOC potentially have it there, but bring out all these sporting events that aren't fully Olympics, have them play out. And then every so often you could promote certain of sports to the main Olympics, and then relegate certain sports to the other Olympics if you really wanted to.
So there's like the World Games, and there's like the Commonwealth Games and Pan Am Games. But they will do that with some of the smaller sports, but they'll only do it if they're still IOC members, right? There's still that barrier. But we are actually leading a initiative for 25 or 26 called the Emerging Sport Games. And we're going to be working with groups like International Functional Fitness, which is like CrossFit.
Okay.
We've reached out to pickleball. We've reached out to tchoukball. We've reached out to jump rope. And to try to do something like all of us together. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, that's the right idea, right? Like get your wagons together and do it.
Well, because I do understand from like an IOC's perspective as well, to a degree, like the Summer Games, there's a lot of events. And it's done over, 17 days or something. And I don't think you could expand this much more. Like, I don't think you jam more sports into that calendar unless we go to the Summer Games being a month long. But I don't know if anyone wants to host the games for a month, because then there's also the Paralympics that comes, once this ends. Like, a lot of people think the Olympics just ends in that host city, but no, then the Paralympic athletes come in and they go for another 2 weeks or whatever it is. But a way to have more sports. We get the summer, we get the winter. Why not have the emerging sports? And then maybe there's the IOC goes, hey, you want to know something? That one would be fun in 2034, and this one would be fun in 2038, and move things around and shift things around. And but to your point, like golf, one reason I was sad golf came back to the Olympics as a golf fan was the Canadians were the reigning champs from like 1904 or something like that, and I just love that we're still the reigning champs. But like the golf was gone for 100 years or whatever it was, and it's golf. It's one of the bigger sporting events that gets talked about all the time, and it couldn't even be
but it's
an Olympic event.
It's a big real estate sport too, right? And it's like bringing cricket to LA 28. So cricket's going to be in the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. But word has it that the organizers didn't really want it because nobody in North America plays cricket. I mean, they do, but it's not a big sport. That's not true. In Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, it's not a big sport. It's fairly big in the Caribbean. But they agreed to take on cricket, and then LA said, well, we want lacrosse. So we'll take cricket, but you got to let us put lacrosse in too. And so lacrosse is going to make its return, in which we are also the reigning champions, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that Canada's field or is that?
It's field lacrosse.
Okay. Well, it is our national sport.
Yeah.
We better be the reigning. We better go win that.
Right.
I don't even know where we are in the rankings when it comes to lacrosse. You guys have rankings for the World Dodgeball?
We sure do, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is it a complex process?
It is. Yeah, more than you think. Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny right now. We're getting a lot of flack on it because, so the probably the best cloth program in the world is in the UK, but Great Britain sent a combined team to the World Championships in 22, and then sent what they call their home nations like Scotland and Wales and England, Northern Ireland. They send those teams to the European Championships. So this year we decided that we'll allow the home nations to compete at the Worlds. But in doing the rankings, we had this combined UK team that we had to find a way to divide points. And so they're lower in the rankings than they probably should be on paper. But we have a fairly complex system, and we've got about 40 countries ranked among, over 6 categories. So
where's Canada?
I think we are 5th overall, 2nd in foam.
Look at us go.
Yeah.
Well done, Canada.
Right?
Good work. So what's the biggest challenge outside of finances that you would have? Or is that
That's kind
Sounds
of
like a
my
long
thing,
list.
you know.
that's the big thing?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Because like that, I always steal this. Tony Kornheiser from Party Interruption, his line is just the answer to all the world's questions is money.
Yeah,
Like, it's anyone that has just money, it makes things easier. But is there anything else that you have to combat that?
Yes, I would say okay. So if we take like pure finance off the table, because it's a young sport, the alumni process has to work itself out over the next few years. And why that's important is a lot of the most knowledgeable people in the sport still play, right? Or they're guys like me where yes, I'm in my 50s at this point, but I'm not like there's not a bunch of people in their 70s that have fond memories of dodgeball and are willing to invest money, but also like coaching is young, officiating is young. A lot of our programs to introduce to kids are young. There are a lot of countries that they're still looking for like, well, how do I introduce this to schools in the right way, at the right age appropriate. So a lot of the technical aspects we're still building and changing. We revise the rules. We don't make huge revisions to the rules, like they're pretty set, but there's still a lot of tweaking that goes on. So part of the problem is or one of the challenges, I shouldn't say the problem, is just being a young sport. We haven't built the legacy of the sport or the people that will now steward the sport as the next generation. We're still working towards that. So that's probably one big challenge. And the second, I think, is just the perception of dodgeball. People think about it as being kids and, I hated playing because I got picked on. And absolutely sure that happens. Absolutely sure it happens in any sport. But there is a very strong perception of dodgeball as a physical bullying, pick-on sport. And that's not universal, but it is in North America. And so that's something we have a challenge with.
Is there anything with the dodgeball movie?
Yeah.
Like, is that good or bad for you guys?
Yeah.
Like, is it because
it's both.
yeah?
It's both. I think I'm like legally obligated to say it's bad because boo, Dodger wrench. But the truth is, when the movie came out, it was a big boon for the sport. People wanted to play again, and I think it would be.
I think it was on TV for a little bit, like legit TV.
Yeah,
like
yeah, it
not
was
the Ocho that we always joke about. But
yeah, it would be unfair to dismiss the impact that it's had on growing the sport, especially in North America and parts of Europe. But you do want to kind of get past it, right? And kind of what I've said before is like one of my favorite sports movies growing up was Slapshot. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't show that to people and say that's what hockey is. But there's truth in the movie for hockey, but that's not how you want to present it. Or Happy Gilmore with golf, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing is like the movie's great, but there is kind of a structured serious side to it that we'd like to kind of.
It's
promote.
not who you guys are.
No, I mean, sometimes it's who we are when we want to play in fun tournaments and wear costumes,
Sure.
right? Like but it's not who we are.
But going to the World Championships,
No,
like
it's different.
that was the championships in Vegas.
Yeah.
Your championships in a week and a half,
Yeah.
whatever, in Austria aren't going to be.
No.
They're not going to be as.
They're a little different than that.
Dodger wrench.
Do you guys have a lot? Like, is there a struggle finding people to play, or like you're saying, these youth sport? But are you good with participation, or is that something that having to convince people? Because that's there's the other sports, there's those Olympic sports. It's hard to get young people to be like, hey, come do this sport.
Yeah.
And the fencing, like we talked about, like who do we know that really fences or something?
Yeah.
How do you get people into fencing? Like, is it a struggle to get people wanting to do this beyond being in elementary school and junior high, or is it pretty good getting some people to join?
Yeah, I think participation is good. I mean, if we do an open tournament, we get a lot of new teams. The different leagues, their participation take up is good. Kids want to play. Kids want to play a lot. If sometimes we did something with Volleyball Canada where we went to their nationals. So they had it in two spots. They had they had Calgary and they had Regina, and we went to both of those. And we did like an open fun thing, and lots of kids want to play, and the other athletes want to play because it's fun. So getting people to play is not a problem, but getting them to kind of necessarily commit to it as a sport, where it's like, oh, you mean I can do this, and there's a path for me to go play internationally. That's really cool. I mean, that's a little tough, but mostly because we're sitting here in this room, and you didn't know the WDBF was here, which I don't blame you because we don't have a budget to advertise or promote. But like that's the reality. But people are absorbed. There's lots of other sports. There's things that they want to focus on. And in Canada, you're going to play hockey, you're going to play soccer, or you're going to do track, swimming, or figure skating. And the idea that you're like, I'm really going to give a shot at playing dodgeball. That's a tougher
Sell.
It's tougher to introduce that as a kind of a trope that you'd want to do sport wise.
There will be those people though, so I encourage those that go do it because it is a lot of fun and it's a workout. It gets the body like because you haven't done dodgeball yet with your multi-sport, have you?
No, I don't think we have that in the lineup.
No,
I haven't played an actual game of dodgeball and I can't remember one since probably grade 10 in gym class or something. And that's a thing. Like honestly, I forgot dodgeball is a sport. I forget dodgeball is a sport every so often because it's not so, I guess, widely played in that sense where it's like
it's not front of mind.
Yeah, it's not there. But when it rolls through like in a multi-sport or something, I'm like, oh my god, dodgeball. I love dodgeball. It is a great sport, and the fact that this exists and I'm just learning this now is one shocking, but also amazing. So it's great to hear that the work that you guys are doing.
Thanks.
Do you guys stream it? Like, is it?
Yep. So we have. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say like the World Championships coming up. Like,
yeah. So we stream it. So we have so we do it a couple of different ways. So the host Austrian Dodgeball Association will stream it on its YouTube channel.
okay,
We have Dodgeball TV, which we have a Twitch channel, and we stream it there.
Oh, cool.
And the take up on Twitch is actually really good. It hits the demographic because a lot of
Yes.
gamers like those kinds of sports, So there's that. And then the third is we've got I don't think I can say anything because we haven't put pen to paper, but we've got a TV station, satellite TV station on the Americas side. Maybe not one you've heard of, to be honest. And they're going to broadcast the event
no way.
this year. And they hit about 45 million homes. So that's going to be great for us for that exposure. So yeah, so there's options to see it if you want to see it. And on our YouTube channel, on World Dodgeball Federation YouTube, we've got all the archived games on there if you just want to go take a look and see what it's like.
I'm gonna have to go watch it. I'm gonna have to do it with the Hangout.
Yeah.
Get your time zone and stuff. Throw them on here because it is a great time. Is so Malaysia's favorite going in, like in terms of world rankings, like they're the number one.
Yeah, I would say so. Like the past champions on the foam side, Malaysia for men, and Canada won both the women's and the mixed divisions at Worlds.
Oh, really?
In 22. And then on the cloth
Look at us go.
side, I believe, get this right, I believe Austria took the women's, and I believe Great Britain took the men's and the mixed. I might be getting one of those wrong. So those are the countries to watch going in. Australia's, Hong Kong, the United States, of course, are our previous champions. The United States is always going to be tough.
They're good at almost everything,
Yeah.
except soccer. On the men's side, the women's side, they're really good. The men's side, they struggle hard, which I enjoy watching. But when you have 300 some million people and you have the financial wherewithal to fund anything and everything that you want, they're always good, and that's why I always cheer against them. So hopefully someone can knock them off.
10 times as many people as Canada?
It's down to 8.5 or so.
In half times?
Yeah, because we've grown so much
yeah.
actually as a country. We're a country of over 40 million people now.
That's right. Yeah, it's not 30.
It's like 41 or 42 million Canada is now.
It's crazy.
It's pretty large.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, and like the U.S., I don't think has seen the growth as much in that way. That because one day I was looking, because what was I looking on? When everyone talking, like they were always praising the XFL TV ratings because they'd have like 1.1 million people or 700,000 people watching, and I'd be like, well, CFL on TSN has like 600,000 people watching, and we're a much smaller population. So if you equate the percent, we're like a 30 million people in the U.S. watch or something like that. So that's when I learned that Canada is actually, it's not 10 times. It's lower than that now. We're
I
catching
like
them.
saying it.
We're
I like
slowly
it.
catching them.
Yeah.
We're slowly catching them. Well, this has been fascinating to learn about the dodgeball and then the World Championships next week. How long do the World Championships then eventually? Like, is it like 4 to 5 days, a week long?
Yeah, it's about 5 days. It's just under a week. Yeah.
So with the championships then, you go in, it's like a tournament style base. You play one game and then you sit aside and waiting for another team to play, right?
Yeah. So what we do is we do a draw for pools from pots, just basically like FIFA draws for the World Cup. So we do draws, and then there are pools. You play within your pool. You do round robin within your pool, and then you get out of your division, you qualify, and then after that, it's single elimination out through.
If people around town want to like play dodgeball or something, like, is there
they want
best place? Is ESSC the best place to start? Or?
I would say Dodgeball Edmonton,
Yeah.
just because that's where I've played forever. I love the community there, and the owners of Dodgeball Edmonton, they live, eat, sleep, and breathe dodgeball. So I would say throw some love their way and sign up.
Well, I got to go look at them because we mentioned it a few months ago about the idea of doing a tournament.
I was just gonna say,
Get an
yeah, we got to
EST
do
in
an
a
EST
tournament or something.
dodgeball
So I'll have to
tournament.
go check Dodgeball Edmonton out and see what tournaments they might have or something. Try to get an EST tournament in there. So maybe Dusty's the Steph Curry equivalent in dodgeball. Maybe we can give him that because you're the Steph Curry of
Well,
the,
yeah, he
the
can throw
office.
both sides or something, right? Like he's
Dusty?
Yeah, he throws weird ways. He throws a football with his left hand. Used to throw
Oh.
it with his right. Yeah, weird ambidextrous kind of. I don't.
But
know
he can't
how
do
it
it
is.
both. Like he can't shoot a basketball right-handed and left-handed.
I'm not exactly. I've seen him throw. I think left-handed. He throws like weird ways. He's a switch thrower. I don't even know. I don't even know. Now I want to play dodgeball though. Like that's a thing because I was thinking about all the rules. Like I was thinking about it. Knowing that you're coming in yesterday, and I'm just thinking about all the times in dodgeballs that I've argued against rules. I mean, in gym class, it's a lot different because it's always.
What rules did you argue in gym class with dodgeball?
You can't carry 2 balls at a time.
Okay.
Sometimes it depends on the gym teacher and everything because they're the ref and they're like, oh, we go by this rule today or whatever. And there's different variations of dodgeball too. Like it's not just that. I'm wondering. You were mentioning maybe fun events like when we brought up the dodgeball movie. Are those things that happen where there are different styles of games where it's like, say one for instance I played in gym class. There was you would set up a row of benches or something. It was called like prison break dodgeball or something, right? Yeah. Are there things like that?
They'll do things like that. They mostly do things like that with schools and kids. Like I know Dodgeball Edmonton did some work with the Girls and Boys Club here in Edmonton at one point, and like usually with kids we'll do things like that where we just kind of like mix it up and make it fun. But we've done like Halloween tournaments with different rules. We did a thing one year where we had all the teams named after like heroes in movies, and whatever they had a special power that they could activate as the dodgeball team based on the hero they had.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? So like if you were, I'm one of the teams like was Darth Vader, and your special power was Sith Apprentice, so the last person out could come back in, or like and then the other team would have a power that was they were allowed to like catches counted for 2 or whatever. And so we've done things like that just to kind of make it fun. Obviously, if you go through the stream to Worlds, like the rules are set, but there's always tournaments that just want people to have fun.
I forgot about the alternative things. There was like the resurrection or something. If you sunk it in the basketball net,
Yes, that's
everyone
right.
comes out,
That's right.
everyone comes back or something. If you're like the last one, it was like go for the net, go for the net, and thank you for reminding me of those ones, Zach.
Or we play Never Ending Dodgeball, which everyone actually hates, but like begrudgingly plays. Where if I hit you, you come join our team.
Yes, and you just keep going back and
keep
forth,
going, and then that just lasts forever, until
That was I think the teacher just probably in gym class also sometimes just going like I just need to run out the clock.
Sorry.
You guys go play.
We got 20 minutes. Let's do this.
Yeah, I did that at a few of the end ones. It was actually the reason I did love the never ending every so often though was getting to throw up my team.
Yeah.
That you'd get hit, you'd go to the other side of them. Okay, I'm targeting my team, no problem. Like I'm going at them. And yeah, those were always good times. It's always good. Do you guys have like a regulation court that needs to be?
Yes.
Or yeah, you
It's
do.
volleyball. It's 18 by 9. Volleyball court parameters. And then
So do you not have walls then, or
we
or
have
do you put-
netting, portable netting.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put up portable netting about 2 meters inside the parameter for the officials and everything, and depending on the gym, like if you're playing in local league, you're playing in a school gym, so you're not putting up barriers. You're just playing off the wall, but technically you're not supposed to play off the wall. So we have netting. So in Austria, we'll have netting around each of the courts. And when we were at the Saville Center in 22 here. And so we had 12 courts. So they had the if you know the Saville Center, you've got like the 3 volleyball courts per gym. So we had all of those, and we would have to put netting around them to protect the courts.
Oh, neat.
That was another question I was going to ask. Yeah, like bouncing off the wall and stuff, I guess, with netting, you're not allowed to do it. How does a start go? Like when you start a game, sometimes in school they'd have you just stand near the wall, hand on the wall, or you're down on your stomach.
Yeah. So they have the opening rush for both cloth and foam. The opening rush is similar. So for foam, you have 6 balls in play. You have 3 that are on the left side and 3 on the right side. So the team has to go for the balls on the right side on the opening rush. So both teams usually send 2 people to collect the 3 balls. Then there's an attack line. They've got to activate the balls by bringing them behind the attack line before they can throw. So I can't run, grab a ball, and throw at you. I've got to activate the ball. And then once that's done, then it's all fair game. You can throw whatever balls you get. You can go right up to the line to throw. But the opening rush is the attack. And you're allowed to cross the line on the rush. So you'll see, especially the Canadians and the Malaysians, guys running on the rush and sliding across the line and batting the ball back. And if you bat it far enough, the guy is like a pitch back to a running back, right? If you bat it, the guy's waiting at the attack line, then he can cross and make a strike.
Oh, no way.
So the opening rush is a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, that would be a lot of fun.
That makes it
I'm just trying to think about that. Okay, so now are you allowed to, like, you can't dribble a ball, can you?
You can.
I mean, can? It's not like I hold the ball, once I lose it, I'm out.
No. Unless you're disarmed. So if you have a ball and you want to ditch the ball to grab another ball, or if you could bounce it or you could throw it to your teammate or roll it to your teammate. But if I strike the ball and disarm it from your hands, then you're out.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then when you run up, you could just tap those balls back and stuff.
Just tap them, pitch them back, and you're good to go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Oh, that would change a lot too. Like the fact that you could just give it to someone else or move things around, and it's not, once I drop it, I'm out. Okay, but if you throw it, does it have to cross the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to throw. I mean, you're not necessarily out if it doesn't cross the line, because like if you choose to ditch a ball any way you choose to do it is fine, but it has to cross the line to be a legal throw. And if there is penalties for non-legal throws, but usually it's the discretion of the ref. Like if you slips from your hand because you're sweating, you're not going to get a penalty for that. But if you're constantly kind of like avoiding the target, that's a different story.
Okay, I don't think, and if we did, apologies. But so then, how do you go win a match?
So
how does a dodgeball match work?
So there's 2 20-minute halves.
Okay.
With a small break in between, and in cloth, like I said, it's a timed game for a point. In foam, it's a complete elimination for a point. But the rest is the same. You get a point for every game you win. As many games as you can play. In
those 20 minutes.
As many matches as you can play in the 20 minutes. And then the 40 minutes, and then the winner is the one with the most points. So in cloth, you can have ties. In foam, you can't. So cloth...
How many do you get in cloth in 20 minutes?
How many games would you get in?
Because if it's timed.
Yeah, in a 20-minute half, you'd still be able to get about...
Because how long's the time?
5 to 6 games in. It's
3 minutes, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you play... and I mean, the games sometimes go much quicker than that. I mean, cloth, you still can eliminate the other team. So if you
if you eliminate everyone, then it's done.
It's still done.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can still, it's one of the two, but it's just the you have a set maximum. So cloth scoring is by 2 points because they allow ties. Foam is by 1. We tried fixing that a year ago, couldn't land on a good system. So it's a little different, the scoring, but it's the same premise.
Love it all. Absolutely love it all. It's I'm very excited about next week. I'm not gonna lie, just to watch this, and it's perfect time and having you on. And thanks for coming in also just in advance of that, because I'm assuming there's a lot more planning that goes into getting this ready for next week, and hopefully it all goes well. And how many World Championships would this be then now?
This will be our 10th.
Okay, right. You mentioned that.
Yeah, so this is our 10th World Championships, and we've been in Canada twice. Both times it was great.
Plans to come back or is it God has spread it around?
Yeah, we got to spread it around. I mean, the challenge you're having, you asked about challenges, and when it comes to competition, one of the biggest challenges is visas. It's one thing to bring a team from Pakistan to Canada to play volleyball, which is super tough to do in terms of visas and clearance. But volleyball has the support of the COC. And it has the support of as an Olympic sport. So getting a team into Canada is different. But for dodgeball, because we don't have that support, it's every person for themselves. So now you have a team from Senegal trying to get into Austria. It's really hard.
So you aren't recognized by the COC.
No, the COC won't recognize us until the IOC recognizes our federation.
So they're one of those chicken and eggs.
Yes.
They're one of those.
Sport Canada could recognize Dodgeball Canada, but their process has been completely still since December 2018. But they keep telling us any month now. So we're
Fingers crossed.
We're getting there.
It'll happen soon.
Next time for sure. No, that's been an absolute joke of a process with Sport Canada. It's been an absolute joke. And it's not like the people aren't nice and helpful, but in December 2018, they closed the process off to their sport, the sport funding framework piece, and they basically told New Sports, we're pausing the application process because we want to sort some things out. We don't think we do it very well. That was December 2018. We put in an application in April 2019 because we said, look, it's all done. It took us a year to put all the 1,000 pages together that you've asked for. Here it is. And with every year that goes by, we just get delayed more and more. So we're talking 6 years now that new sports have not been able to come into the landscape.
Well, you think they'd figure it out at some point, whatever they're trying to figure out, or thinks they're really that bad at Sport Canada that they need to go taking this long to figure out what they need to figure out.
Yeah, what happened was they were ready to do this back in 2000, and I think it was 21. And then the big Hockey Canada scandal broke.
Oh, okay.
And they basically said, geez, we don't know what's happening. We don't know that governance. So like I will defend the sports minister in that respect, because it's like, well, you come into that portfolio and all of a sudden you're handed this massive issue with Hockey Canada. There was some issues around other sports too happening.
There's been a lot of issues with various federations in Canada. Yeah. A lot of them.
And then they're just realizing that they don't have a good handle on it. So they're giving money, and do they really know what's happening? And so they paused everything again.
Okay.
So this was supposed to happen in 21, 22. But now that you have all this thing happening with soccer, I can just see it going back again.
Yeah, because the feds have announced, or the government, they announced that they're stopping funding or pausing some stuff with Canada Soccer. And the news today it seems like this was regular practice of Canada Soccer. This is, well, look, everyone in soccer does this, but Canadians are upset, and they're going to be looking into this, and I could see,
and they're going to be asking themselves, like, if soccer's doing this, who else is doing this? And we don't know. We have to know. So before we move on with the framework and the funding, they've got to figure that part out too. So it's for sports like ours, there's not a lot of options. Like even Ultimate Canada, who is recognized by the COC, is not recognized by Sport Canada. They're not funded by Sport Canada, but they are a member of the COC because their international federation is. Like it's Canada is a fun landscape for sports.
Yeah, well, so like I guess pickleball would have to be fighting all this right now, wouldn't they?
Pickleball is a mess.
Okay.
Yeah,
because like this is a sport that has boomed onto the scene, has been massive in the States. We're seeing leagues around it and stuff. Yeah. But they're falling in this time period where there's all this chaos going on and no clarity for things that you would think. I would have to just assume that they're dealing with this too.
So pickleball has the opposite problem we do. They've got lots of money. They've got people that are willing to step up. They have billionaires on their board. One of the sports to tell me that what you need is a billionaire on your board. So I'll have to get on that. But
if you're a billionaire, by the way, get in touch.
Let us know. We got a spot on the board. But for pickleball, they've got money, but their governance structure is difficult. They've got a lot of infighting, and there's no unified world federation. And they haven't even started. Like whereas we've applied for recognition, we've gone through the steps. We've put in our application, paid our fees. They haven't done that yet. And so at a grassroots level, they've got some money. They've got like aging out tennis players, especially that started pickleball, right? And kind of moved that in. And that's that alumni level I was telling you about that we don't have. So they've had a really good amount of growth at the grassroots level with people taking up pickleball. Governance-wise, they've struggled. And for us, it's like our governance is solid, but we don't have the kind of that alumni level to help us with the funding.
Well, hopefully that changes, and the big thing I'm really hopeful is that the emerging Olympics, or however you guys, that I think would be a lot of fun because I don't know, those that's one of the things that's great about the Olympics just in general is watching the sports you don't always watch.
Yeah.
So adding the more sports, it just make more time, and we do need more attention for that. And yeah, throw a couple of extra weird sports in there too. And then there's also what was that sport you told us prior to the show?
Oh, tech ball.
Tech ball,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
fascinating.
That looks insane.
Yeah, tech ball is it's a very interesting case study of building a sport from the ground up and would it taste to succeed or not.
I also just wouldn't have never thought that we'd see like the invention of sports fully type thing, and there's one of them, and
That is purely let's create a sport.
let's create a sport.
Yeah.
And they've created one of those. Although Renee from Century Casino, when she was first on the Hangout, she brought up a few, and we've found a few other weird sports.
Oh, yeah,
that
card
are-
jitsu?
Card jiu-jitsu is one of them. That was really just random.
I love that one.
There was some video of these little like mini cars playing like soccer. Like you're in a car and you have to hit the ball and drive it around and stuff. And it's there's a lot of weird sports out there too. Not like I'm not saying dodgeball is weird or
no.
I'm
but
saying like there's those, but then there's even more like there's
Yeah.
these weird sports that you go like, what is this? But also like give it to me.
Right? Yeah, I'd classify like card jitsu and that mini car soccer or whatever as like just weird sports, like outlandish, just for the entertainment value because it's there.
Yeah.
You watch it. It's something you never see. It's just one of those like completely made up sports. Just something to find some new entertainment. And we're talking tech ball. And if you guys haven't searched it up, TEQ ball, it's just insane. I looked at just the pictures, and it's with the curved table. It's sort of like table tennis, but with your feet. I couldn't do it. Like playing table tennis or ping pong or whatever is easy enough because you don't really have to move that much. You're just moving laterally. But having to kick it, like, man, you got to be acrobatic and agile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our Plouffe sisters are on the court, it looks like right now, in 3x3 out at the Olympics. And is the score going to change right here? Up 10-6 at the moment.
Team
over
Canada
China.
might need me.
There's one person in this office that should go represent Canada at the Olympics for basketball. It is you, Zach. That's Mr. Steph Curry from over there. Our men, I can't remember when our men next play basketball-wise, because again, Canada and Colombia, they'll meet at 1 o'clock today with the Canadian women's soccer team. Men's basketball, my app. I'm having issues with the phone today. I'll have to look it up later. Matt Iwanyk, Zachticum with you here on the EST Hangout presented by Hoots. Duane Wysynski.
Yes. Perfect.
Yes, let's go.
Perfect.
Dude, are you heritage Ukrainian or
Ukrainian, yeah.
Yes, okay, so I'm Ukrainian. I should
Yeah.
be getting this right. The fact that I didn't get it right the first couple times, that's going to now bother me moving forward. I do have to get to this text I got from Mr. Ryan Rashog, who sent me a tweet that he had on dry settle extension. Sounds like the two sides have been in touch, but actual negotiations haven't started yet. Those will commence here shortly. So any notion that it's close to done is premature as of today. So once again, that's coming in from TSN's Ryan Rashog. Dry settle extension negotiations haven't actually started, but they have been in touch. So I know Stoff has been talking about it'd be 7 or 8 years. That he went and clarified that, just saying that would be the term for it, not that the Oilers were close on a 7 or an 8 year extension. But I don't know. I feel like that's going to be a deal that will be very quick.
I think
to
it's
getting done.
inevitable. Like, I think it's got to happen soon, right? I think it'll come up here.
The question would be, how quickly do they want to get this? Like, how big of a priority in terms of, do we need to get this done right away, or could we, like, because they still need to sign Broberg, they still need to sign Holloway. You got the Bouchard, like, it could be one end. Do you want to get to us in 3 weeks? Do you want to get this in 2 weeks? Finishing up, I'm still at the lake. Like, I don't think there's an urgency because they know that a deal's going to get done.
True. Yeah, definitely
That's the way I look
before
at it.
the season, though. Like September, mid-September. You don't want to go into the season not having him down, right?
Yeah, I'd understand it as long as it gets done before November for me. I'd want it. Like, I wouldn't want to be getting closer to Christmas going, what's happening with Leon Draisaitl? Like, let's get this done type thing. But, yeah, I think it will get done. Oiler fan?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's not your... Because you seem like a very busy guy.
Yeah. No. I
Like...
rooted for the Oilers in the playoffs 100%. I have to confess, I was a Canadiens fan for most of my life.
that makes sense.
Growing out east, I was grew
Oh,
up-
you're from
yeah,
out east.
yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, Dusty's a Habs fan. That's just also like Habs, and I know people hate it, but Leafs. It makes sense why, for the longest time, those were the two
That's what you
Canadian
had, yeah.
teams, and then that if your parents were fans of them, as you grow up, like you become a fan potentially as well. So those two makes a lot of sense. It's just maybe the Canadians will eventually start going the other way. Going the other way, getting better.
Yeah.
When the Canadians are good, it's fun. When the Bell Center, when there's playoffs at the Bell Center, we could talk about Rogers Place and how great it is, and it is. There's something special too about the Bell Center. When that place is rocking for a playoff game, it just looks magical, and you don't hear people leave a Habs game going like, that wasn't great. Like in terms of atmosphere, like it's
Agreed.
it's the cathedral of all of that.
Watching it through the TV, that's one of the only places. I mean, Rogers Place is up there, but watching Habs game during the playoffs, it's just electric. Like that's a place you want to be. I've been at Rogers Place. I've seen games, not during the playoffs. I've been down there during in the ice district and whatnot for the last few runs, but that's on my calendar to, on my bucket list to go out there and watch a Habs game in the Bell Center.
That would be amazing.
Habs, MSG for the Rangers.
Yeah.
Those would be the two for hockey.
1-2.
I did get to see a game in the old Maple Leaf Gardens.
No way.
Yeah, nothing like feeling like if someone dropped a match, you would all die a horrible death. It was a absolute fire trap. But again, like it's not about like the history there, right? Just the outside of the building, and as difficult as it was to maneuver inside, like just the atmosphere was and it's not the same as going to was it Scotia Place?
Scotiabank now.
Yeah.
Because people have been pointing out Calgary's going to be Scotiabank, Edmonton's Rogers, Vancouver's Rogers,
We only need, like, three
Scotiabank in
names, right?
Toronto. Like it's all like this, the exact. Like there's very few. We're not really creative or getting those different corporations jumping in on arenas or stadiums here in Canada. I think it's a Loblaws now too. Old Maple Leaf Gardens. I think it's been converted into a grocery store.
Don't they have the what's the name of that place? Isn't the they have an upper level with a basketball court?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that. But I
remember what
believe
it's-
one of the
something-
things is the Loblaws.
It starts with an R. I could be wrong, but they've got. I think they've got a court up there, and it's actually a pretty nice setup. I've heard. I've never seen it live, but
Oh, Toronto?
yeah, the old Maple Leaf Gardens they've converted, right? So I think
Yeah.
they've got a sports part on the top.
Well, you think they'd remake it into something like...
Well, they turned in 2009. It was sold, underwent major internal reconstruction, turned into a multi-purpose facility with a Loblaw supermarket occupying lower floors and an arena for the Toronto Metropolitan University, known as now it's the Mattamy Athletic Center
Mattamy,
at
yeah,
the Gardens,
yeah.
occupying the top level.
Yeah, that's mad at me. Okay,
So they've got, there's even a hockey rink in there on the third level of the building and stuff. So they got a hockey rink, they got it for basketball, but yeah, it's also then just off the Loblaws. They found a way to convert it, and good for them for finding new things. We need to tear down Coliseum here in Edmonton because that just needs to be moved on from and move forward with. So,
Well, that's starting to become a sore a little bit. Like, I mean, the last few years, it's been a sore since the new barn was put up, and they just didn't do anything for it for so long. Always thought, well, maybe, I don't know, use it as a shelter or something, like just purpose it in some way. But now that they're going to be demolishing it, it's going to be cool to see what they use with that space, because it's right by Expo. It's in a fantastic area. Area. So whatever they do with the old Coliseum grounds, it's going to be nice to see. I never had the chance to see an Oilers game
no?
there. I've been for Oil Kings games. I've been in the belly of it a little bit. My aunt and uncle had season tickets for years for the Oil Kings and stuff. I got to meet Curtis Lazar actually, which was cool. I mean, I got a signature or something somewhere, but no. My brother one time won a trip to go out throughout Rexall Place, and he met a bunch of the Oilers and stuff and got to walk all the way around on the inside of the arena, go through all the special doors and stuff. And I mean, it's a huge building, like just the money to upkeep it. Well, not upkeep it, but to have it there, millions of dollars. So putting in the investment to actually take it down. When is that supposed to happen?
They don't know yet. Because they
not
need
even-
to get the money for it, and it's the province now might jump in with some money for it because they are paying to tear down the Saddle Dome. So that might come in, and it's part of a process that we heard some news. The CTV had the story where Daryl Cates, the city, and the province might come together to get some money for the next phase of Ice District, but also to renovate Commonwealth Stadium, and part of that would be money to tear down the Coliseum. So it's part of a. Who knows what's going to happen as we move forward? I think this 3x3, it's halftime maybe?
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
sure how
that's it,
fast.
Or did we win?
Yep.
Canada won. There we go. The Plouffe sisters leading the way there. The number one ranked in the world when it comes to 3x3. But on the betting odds, they were not number one going into this. So, favorite Olympics to like sporting events to watch? Like
Track and field.
athletics. All of it?
Yes.
Is
I
there a
kinda
number
like
one in it that you go towards?
Yeah, short sprints, right? Like 100, 200, and 4x1 is kind of what I like to watch the most. The older I get, the less patience I have to watch, the longer events. But I do like them all. I also like watching the field events. I mean, high jump's always a lot of fun to watch when it gets to the last round, right? Because
Yeah.
everything is so kind of like on edge. But yeah, I love watching track and field, and I love watching basketball. Kind of glued to watching basketball this time around, especially with Canada having a real shot at a medal.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then there's nothing that I don't like watching, but I do tend to gravitate to the events where Canada's stronger, obviously.
Yeah, you want to see Canada try to do, get that gold. You want
Yeah.
to see the singing of the anthem or something like that. I like gravitating towards, there's always those couple events that I like, the new ones, just to watch. Like, I surfing when it came in Tokyo,
yeah,
I watched
yeah.
surfing. I watched it this past weekend, like, a lot. Because I find it just so fascinating. I'm never going to watch surfing at any
Yeah.
other point over the next 4 years, likely. But it's so much fun. And that photo, I don't know if you guys saw the photo
Yeah.
that was caught.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you see the photo?
No.
It was like, they found the video of it, but he would like launched up and he was like just like in midair, like with a pose, and his board was behind him. It was an amazing photo. I do feel bad for those athletes somewhat being in Tahiti, but then they're also in Tahiti. But also they probably go to Tahiti a lot for surfing. So like, I don't think it's as special to them as everyone else,
They're missing
maybe.
on being a part of the community and the pageantry of the Olympics, but they're in Tahiti.
But they're in Tahiti.
Like, it's not horrible.
No,
Yeah.
their water's probably a lot safer right now, as the men's triathlon has been postponed at least once so far, I think. I can't imagine putting $1 billion into something and it's still not working. Like, you go to try to clean the river and it's just... what a waste, almost, it looks like, when it comes to all of that. The big basketball guy overall,
Yeah,
or just
overall.
yeah. It. Where do you think what's a successful Olympics for the men's basketball team? Where do we put because
So-
gold is hard.
So yeah, I think it, and the other thing too is like collision courses are different, right? Because you might have a tournament where you just draw. Like if Canada finishes second in their pool, for instance, they're likely going to hit the U.S. in the quarterfinals. So
Yeah.
now you're looking at two powers that are going to meet without any medal chance for one of them. So that's always an issue because the pools are random. You always have that chance that you're going to meet someone sooner than you'd like to. I think if you would have asked anyone 2 years ago, a successful Olympics would have been like a top 5 finish. But I think in the last couple of years, especially with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander like exploding in the past couple of years, Jamal Murray now joining the team, their bronze, they messed up at the FIBA Worlds in a few games. Like they didn't just walk through it. I mean, they had a problem against a Brazil team they should have beat, but the fact that they beat the Americans in the bronze, I think I don't want to call them unfair expectations, but set really high expectations. But now you've got a completely different U.S. Two people come back? Anthony Edwards coming back and
Yeah, it was their
Halliburton, like
B
two
or
of them coming
C
back.
team or something from last year.
They only have a couple of guys that were on that FIBA team coming back for this. So it's a whole new group. But I think it would be disappointing if Canada didn't medal. I think it couldn't be. I think we cannot be okay with saying it was a successful event and have them finish out of the medals for this particular team in this particular competition.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The only thing I would defend them with is, again, if they have to meet the U.S. in a quarter,
Yes.
that's the one I'll be like, well, you got the U.S. too soon. Like, you got the Americans, and how do you take them down? But I'm one of those guys that has the high expectations, though, and beyond that, it's like I want to be in the gold medal game.
Yeah.
I think that you need to go to be like, to me, being in a bronze medal game would be a little bit of a disappointment because, Luka's not there because Slovenia. Well, that's the thing; they didn't even qualify. So, you take away one of those countries that you thought maybe could do a little bit of damage. I don't know, look, we took down Greece. They had Giannis. Giannis is one of the great players in the world. If they have to go up against Jokic in Serbia, it's going to be tough. But I know the rules are different. But look at how many NBA players we have.
Yeah.
You should be out there and able to go get those wins. So to me, it's like I have that unrealistic expectation probably of no, you need to be in the gold medal game and you need to be taking on the Americans. And if not, I'll be a little disappointed.
Yeah, but see, I think the FIBA rules actually favor Canada more than people think, because I think the first thought for FIBA rules is around the position of bigs. Pulling rebounds off the rim, being able to dominate in the paint a bit more. And you look at the Canadian team and it's really thin in the post. It's really it's not a big team. But if you look at our perimeter guards, if you look at Lou Dortz, if you look at SGA, if you look at even Barrett, they can hand check, they can get in there, they can get a leg in there, they can be more physical in the perimeter than you can be in the NBA. And if you saw the game against Australia, what would we have, like 7 steals or 10 steals that game? And each of those guys had like 2 or 3 steals apiece, and they're not able to do that in the NBA, right? So I think that where it's going to hurt us in the post, it's going to help us in the perimeter. You're not going to let Curry get those shots off. You're not going to. So it's going to be different. Now, beating the U.S. is a super tall order, but I think that the idea that Canada should be playing for a medal at some point has to be expectation.
Yeah, it's the thing. If you take it on the U.S., I would just keep it close going into the fourth.
Yeah,
and then whatever happens in that fourth quarter, what happens? If all of a sudden Steph and LeBron go a little cold, maybe you take advantage of that. That's basketball, right? Like, you just need to maybe you go on that run at the right time, and all of a sudden the Americans can't overcome it.
Yeah.
But just you got to keep it close throughout the first 3 quarters to give you that chance in that fourth.
And on any given day, like because both the U.S. and Canada have NBA talent with NBA experience, they're going to probably play the same way. And last year the Pistons beat the Thunder, and you're probably too young to remember this live, but when the Raptors beat the Bulls in their inaugural season, beat MJ and the Bulls. I mean, on any given day, a team can win. And so, is Canada good enough talent-wise to beat the U.S. on a given day? Absolutely.
Yep.
Are they the favorite? No, of course they can't be, right? So,
but if you go, the 3 finalists for MVP this year, one was Canadian. There weren't Americans on there. So if you go recent play, Canada might have the best player in terms of a current power ranking type thing. Not saying best player overall.
Yeah.
Still would take LeBron. I'd still take Steph. I'd still take KD. But in terms of the most recent play, SGA had just an incredible year. So
fantastic.
Come down to the late, maybe Jamal Murray also just figures it out a little bit more with health wise and all of that, and elevates his game still, because he hasn't been Jamal Murray yet.
No.
And that's if all of a sudden he turns into Jamal Murray again in the right moment.
Yeah. But you've got Barrett playing so well, and when Barrett moved over to Toronto last year, his numbers went through the roof. He didn't have a great role in New York, and I think he can play a role that he's playing in Toronto for the national team a bit more, and it's kind of showing in his scoring.
What's your expectation?
I would take, I don't know, top 3, even though losing bronze or just making it to the bronze game and winning there, you want more. You want to get up there. But even top 3 finish, a bronze for me is probably good enough just to get the bronze in basketball, getting another medal up on the counter.
And I think there was a time, and again, only a few years ago, if you would have said that Canada is expected to finish higher than Spain, higher than Australia, higher than France, and that's an expectation, no one would have thought that was in the cards. But for us to be in there now, it's a...
It's wild to see.
pace.
It's completely wild to see just how many NBA players that we're getting, and yeah, I think the boys with Cool Bet, they were gonna set. I don't know if they officially got the lineup, but with the 3 Canadian basketball teams, how many medals? And they said it like 1.5. I was like, I'd probably take a little bit the over, because the men getting a basketball and the 3x3, I'm thinking the Canadian women they're getting something.
Yeah, I think
They're
the
getting
medal.
something.
I think the medal.
Like it's
yeah.
you don't be number 1 in the world all this entire time and then get to the Olympics, I don't think, and somehow fall. Though Australia yesterday in rugby sevens, they're a powerhouse, and Canada took them down, and the Americans, I don't know if you guys saw the last play of that. It was wild as the Americans just took it on the last second.
But can we just talk about how wild it is that they played 2 rugby games in a day? Like the women played Australia, and then they had to play New Zealand on the same day.
Yes.
Like that is insane.
The rugby sevens are, and I remember, I think every Olympics we always walk away and be like, those are wild, the rugby sevens. But the rugby sevens are just absolutely, like, it's how quick it goes. It is fascinating. It also is one like I want a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And it's just a lot more open space. And like between 3x3 and rugby sevens, those 2 sports have found a little something to really promote their games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to watch more rugby now. Like watching those games yesterday. I guess I only watched the gold medal game for Canada, but it is so quick, and you have to get those scores so fast to try and bring it back. And the plays happen so fast too. There's a quick break, and then boom, you just get the try. And I haven't watched rugby before. Honestly, I didn't really know much about the sport. And I still don't. It's still new to me. But it's fast. And to have 2 games in one day, those are pro athletes.
Have you ever watched Baseball Fives? Is it Baseball
No.
Fives?
I've never heard of Baseball Fives.
Yeah, it's is it Fives or I don't know. I haven't really followed it, but it's the same thing where they've kind of like toned down they've reduced the players. They made a lot of reductions to kind of compress the game, just like with 3v3, and it's very, very popular in some parts of the world. Not really in a lot of traditional baseball markets, but it's probably a good thing for if you're introducing it into a new area. You've got another option for people to get interested.
I think you'd be like, you look like a rugby player to me.
Really?
Like your build, you got the height. I think you'd have the, like, I do actually think that you could have probably been pretty decent at rugby.
I feel like I could have, yeah. I've heard a lot of stories about injuries.
Can you be physical?
In rugby?
Can you go hit someone?
I did playing basketball yesterday. No,
what do you mean you hit someone playing basketball yesterday?
It was after I sunk my 3, so I was all the adrenaline was going through me, and then I went to go play D. And I put my knee out while the guy was running past me, and I just absolutely just smoked him with my knee. But no, I think I could have tried rugby. A high school wanted me for football on the Ainley football team. They wanted me to try out for them because I was like 280 or something. So they wanted me to play like D-line, O-line or something. And I was like, no, I don't know football. I play hockey. And I think it was a good call because one of my good friends, he made it to the team, which was great, but then he tore his ACL playing a big boy. But rugby is tough, man. Tough sport. You need like strong legs. Just looking at anybody who plays rugby, strong legs, like built like a brick house. Just strong, fortified, everything like that. And I always think about this. There's a former UFC champion who started with rugby. His name's Alexander Volkanovski. Aussie always walks out to Down Under, the song Men at Work Down Under by Men at Work. He always walks out to that song. But no, he's got beefy legs. Like, nah. Maybe that's one of the things we got to add if we do the EST Combine, play some rugby or flag football.
Yeah, no rugby for
no
me.
rugby.
I'm going to get
hard.
destroyed. I'm going to get broken.
Because you're a runner.
I'm
right?
a runner. Although I could get the ball and maybe try to run it past everyone.
Yeah, once you get an open field, I had friends invite me to what they call old man rugby.
Yeah,
where they just like it's all these old dudes play, but they're all guys who have played rugby. So I'm like, no, not unless they're 70 and I'm 50. Maybe I'll give it a shot, but no, otherwise I'm getting killed.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and but it's also one that you watch it, and every time you watch it, like you go like, this is fascinating. I want to know more about this, and then you just kind of forget about it, and then it comes back again. And Canada's actually pretty well at it too. We've become a pretty good sports nation in a lot of different ways beyond hockey, and it makes me very happy to see. Like it's nice being able to celebrate multiple golds at a Summer Olympics. Winter Olympics, we're getting golds. We know that. We're a winter nation. But dodgeball, we're right up there. Rugby, we're actually pretty good. Like, it's those other ones that we don't talk about enough. But for a country of 40 million people, like, there's only a limit of how many athletes you're going to produce. And the fact that we could be good at multiple different sports, that's the part that I'm just so excited about.
The fact that we have a chance to win gold in both hammer throws this year is ridiculous. Like, we've never been a country that's touched the hammer throw in 60 years, and now we've got a chance to win 2 golds. That's amazing. Like, it's just such a change in the landscape for sport.
Well, we have the reigning decathlon champ, most athletic person in the world, in Damian Warner. We'll see what Andre DeGrasse can do this time around. It's wild that this, I think, his 3rd Olympics now that he's taking part in.
Is his 3rd? Yeah,
I think it's because he went up against Usain Bolt.
Yeah,
many years ago and stuff. And it's, I remember Donovan Bailey, but I don't remember, like, in my time, that much athletics. Well, Simon Whitfield, I guess. I remember Simon
that's
Whitfield.
Right, because he triathlon twice. He medaled twice.
In Sydney, he did it.
Yeah.
And then in Beijing, he had the surprise.
Yeah.
Did he win or did he come a second?
I want to say that he won 1 gold, and I thought it was a gold and bronze, but
Or maybe because I remember there was
I,
like out of nowhere he was all of a sudden in the lead for like this long period of time. You're like, oh my god, where's this coming from?
But his gold was a shock.
Yeah, that
when
one
he won
too.
the gold.
Yes,
yeah, that was a shock.
And that was back. You weren't even born yet. I don't think. Was it your 03?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
It was 2000.
03. Getting now that we're talking to people in the 2000 plus ranges.
I saw something yesterday that said something about like talking to somebody born in 2017, like they're 7. And I was like, jeez.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
7 years old.
Well, my buddies, like, I remember when my friend's little brother was born, and now he's like 15 or something, but he's almost as tall as me. And I remember when he was born, I'm like, wow, it's been like, time just went by like that. Yeah.
Sure does.
Like,
Sure does.
I don't know. I guess in high school I graduated 21, so 2021. And that feels
Yeah, that's
like
why
ages ago.
I think
It went
Surveyor
so-
Brett had the comment about you said something about you hadn't played dodgeball since you were in grade 10. He's like, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, five, maybe 6, pushing 6 years ago or something. I don't. Yeah, not too long ago, but long enough. It's crazy how time flies with.
The youngest guy, the 20-year-old talking about it's crazy how
Back in my
time
day.
just went.
Back in my day, we had to wait a little bit longer for internet service. We only had 3G.
No, it's
We had to
5G.
have our cell phones where we had to. Actually, do you know the QWERTY phones, or have you always had like smartphones? Like, do you know having
no.
to type like a button like
I've
3
never
times?
used any of the BlackBerry or flip phones.
I'm not even
or
talking about
anything.
the BlackBerry. I'm talking about the flip phone ones.
No,
I had a flip phone.
First
The flip
phone I
phone
had was
typing.
iPhone 4S
Oh yeah, no.
in like grade 6.
I remember when they announced it wasn't even the iPhone. It was first the iPod Touch.
Yeah, I had
That's
one
what
of
was
those.
announced, and then they
the
came out
iPhone
with
came.
the iPhone, and then it was a big deal. And
No,
You
man.
didn't have to text people where you hit the 2,
No.
3 times, and then you had to like.
what was that?
You even know what I'm
T9.
talking about?
Yeah, I know.
T9. The T9 keyboard.
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
right.
that one is. So it's like it would be like
Yeah, you have the
number
9.
1
Yeah.
would be 3 letters, and 2 would have 3 letters assigned to it. 3 would have 3 letters assigned to it. And so when you type, like you click 1 once, that was for A, but if you hit twice, it was for B, and if you did 3 times, it was for C. And then you
It
had
was like Morse
It would
code.
take
You had to send.
ages to text
Yes.
somebody.
Oh, and the younger people, like I never got good at, but the younger people could do it like no problem. They learned it. It was like a
that's-
skill.
but that's when-
almost should be in the Olympics.
Typing.
That's when your texts there were things like "get milk," okay. You didn't be like, "So how's your day?"
Yeah, you weren't doing any essays.
No,
Yeah.
it was as need to know basis.
It was sweet to the point. If you needed more, you'd have to call.
Oh man.
Because no one wanted to type, and also because the screen's so small that you couldn't read a lot of stuff, so
Yeah.
it's very quick and to the point.
No,
And
nobody
you don't know
really
when
calls. No, it's more texting. I mean, I guess I call somebody up if I actually have to talk to them about something, but it's so easy to just type or even voice to text. Like you say, "Hey Siri, text
Yeah.
Hopefully my phone doesn't come up. But
I do not do voice to text.
no, I do that.
Voice
do it a
notes?
lot.
Yeah?
Yeah. I do voice notes more now. More doing voice notes now because I'm more like WhatsApp and Messenger. So voice notes are easy. But voice to text constantly, especially if I'm in the middle of something and then you got to do it. Then you got to review it to make sure that you didn't say something stupid and they didn't. You know.
Or they didn't autocorrect it to the wrong way or something like
which
that.
it does all the time. People's names, it botches it up.
No.
Constantly. So
Yeah, you missed out on some
Fun
of the
times.
gloriness.
Well, I was
of the
watching
fun
videos
times.
yesterday of like about Y2K, 2010s, like just full.
What
like,
about the
recap.
2010s?
That's my nostalgia.
Yeah,
that's
but
where
like,
I'm
what were these videos on the 2010s?
all
I'm just very
the
intrigued.
memes, all the games, all the fashion, all the words.
We're talking about the fashion of the 2010s.
Yeah.
I
Swag,
I get it, but I can't even like fathom the idea of like 2010 nostalgia. Like it just, I feel like that was
just
just really,
happened.
really recently. But
Well, then it was all talking like tech. Now it moved from, I guess, just how online evolved, because it was just like random funny stuff was very popular on the internet, like cats and lasers and stuff like that. And then now the way it's transformed into an actual, I guess, viable creation. Like people are very much more creative online. Like you see these TikTok videos and all that stuff of people. You can tell they're really good at this, and it's not easy to mimic. I don't know. I was just trying to get some inspiration or something. I don't know.
it's kind of funny because like my boys are 20 and almost 17, and like the whole world they've known has been like instant access.
Yes.
Access to any information they want. You know, like whether it's music or video, being able to find things out and see things and get the. And I remember in university, like, you know, connecting through my dial-up modem. You download a file. It would take 20 minutes. If somebody picked up the phone while you were on it, it would ruin it, and it doesn't resume. Like it's just
Encyclopedias.
encyclopedias. Going to the
Every
library.
house would have an encyclopedia,
Yeah.
or almost, and you'd have to go and you'd hope that whatever subject you're on was in the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't, you're like, ah, damn, now I got to find something else on this. I picked the wrong topic. Encyclopedia. Yeah, you wouldn't even. You never
never
opened
read
up.
one.
Oh, and then there would be then it became digital encyclopedias
Yeah.
where you can get the programs for it. And then it became Wikipedia at
CD-ROMs.
least. And now it's Wikipedia at least. So it's thank God there's Wikipedia. But yeah, that instant access, the instant connection that you can just contact anyone at any moment that you and your kids have had to deal with. It's there's a part of me that wishes it went back to like the 90s.
Well,
There's a part of me for certain things in
accessibility
life.
going back to the 90s would be okay, and not being available to everyone all the time at all hours that'd be okay if that was a little different.
Well, yeah, that'd be hard. Like, just, I don't know. There's cyberbullying and all that stuff, right? It's terrible. You could badger at somebody forever. And I always think about it in, I guess, a sports kind of sense. Like, imagine being this huge athlete. You're on social media. You do something dumb or whatever. People are just hating on you. And that's all you see. You could see all these comments. I mean, there's good ones as well, but just the fact of that too, it is so easy to just get at people. Like, this is great right here. We got the nasty chat and the text line, and it's all fantastic to have that sort of connection, but there's also the negative side of it. And being really growing up in any sense, like being an athlete, you could see those things, the negative backlash, I guess, not backlash, but just negativity towards you. Or if you're trying to learn a sport, or you're trying to be good at the sport, say you're a hockey player or a golfer or something, and you see this person hit that golf shot and you're like, man, I can never do that. Man, I can never. There is that negativity that comes with it, because there's that instantaneous thing where you could search up, how am I going to do this better? Or you look at a video, but it's not you, right? You're comparing yourself. There's that comparison from what you really aren't to, or yourself to what you aren't in, I guess, what's on the internet, because it's all skewed and stuff.
And everything
but
will be under scrutiny. Like, and comments that you make don't go away. There's permanent record of things you do, which didn't exist. Like athletes, who knows what, I mean, in more of the information age, we've kind of discovered, like, there've been comments that Bobby Orr's made or Bobby Hall made. And it's like, but who knows who was saying what back then? But there was no way to kind of capture it, and there was no record of it. And so now any athlete makes a comment, and it can be under scrutiny, and it lives forever.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a lot
There's,
more accountability. like Josh Allen tweets from 2013 or something, right? I mean, nothing is going to happen from there, but there's some interesting things that he said online. Being what? How old would he have been at that time? He would have been like 14 or something, right?
Oh, that was like the early days of Twitter, and no one really knew what Twitter fully was going to be or what it was. So people have. Yeah. But that's where I always go, if you're an athlete growing up, like, I'm still surprised, like, just delete all your tweets or get a new Twitter account. Like, start a brand new Twitter account if you're becoming a major athlete and, like, you're going to be a college football player. Just start a new Twitter.
Yeah. Like McDavid tweets as well. I mean, there were some bad funny ones of him. But they're all funny.
He had no bad ones. Yeah. He just had some 12-year-old, 13-year-old comments that you're just like, that. Okay.
That checks out. Yeah.
Yes.
And nobody thinks of that when you're growing up, like your digital footprint. But now athletes more than ever, I guess, have to look at that as well. Because it's your, like, say Bryson DeChambeau as well. He took a different route on it. He flipped it where, he was hated. He went to live. He still is hated. But he has his YouTube channel, which is blown up. And you could see that side of him. That's the positivity of it. But then there's the other side where, people are, oh, why'd you say this in 2015? Oh, I was 13. I didn't know any better, right? Yeah. Like, stuff like that. It's wild to me. And people have to be a lot more cautious of that. Like, man, I don't I don't know how people stay famous, and I guess don't get canceled or hated on at least one point in their careers nowadays as well.
Well, don't say stupid things sometimes. That's part of it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. Let's get to Road Warriors, which is brought to you by AccuSteel Heavy Haul Trailers, custom manufacturing of heavy haul trailers for mining, oil and gas equipment, highway transportation, quality, innovation, integrity, trusted by leaders in the heavy transport industry. Get on the road with peace of mind with your large loads, AccuSteel and .ca. And mentioned a little bit earlier, for those that have missed it, Canada's appeal for the Canadian women's soccer team and their 6-point deduction was denied. So they stay at 0 points. Throughout this tournament. Their big match coming up 1 o'clock as they take on Colombia. If they win, they actually move on, and then everything is just, for this tournament at least, or for the Olympics, we could forget about it. There's no more repercussions, and we see what they can do. They'll be off to the quarterfinals, I believe it is. But they got to go win that match at 1 o'clock, and they kind of feel like a little bit of a team of, like, destiny almost with this, that they've used it as this major fuel, and they don't care who's in their way. They're just mad at everyone, and they're going to take it out.
Yeah.
It's us against the world. And it's going to be fascinating to see how, like, now it's like they are ranked much higher than Colombia. I think Colombia's 22 in the world, somewhere around there. Canada's like 7th or 8th. So we're the favorites going into this. It's just a matter, can they go get it done and get the win?
I wonder what the reaction would be if we were to make it all the way and win.
Win gold?
Yeah, that would. I wonder what the reaction just internationally, nationally would be after a huge scandal like that. Well, I guess it's normal in soccer almost.
Well, no,
right?
It's the soccer world doesn't care. People in Canada care. People in New Zealand cared because it was them that was spied on. For the most part, the soccer world actually doesn't care about this scandal. They're not interested in it at all. I mentioned on the Hangout yesterday that Tyler Adams, who's a U.S. soccer player, he actually said on a podcast, every team does this. I don't know if he should be saying that because then there might be investigations now into his. But, like, teams do this. And it's not that big of a scandal as much as Canadians are fully making it to be.
Yeah. I think it's part of the issue is the way Canadians like to see themselves in sports competition as being, like, the highest integrity, we're
the country that says sorry.
Yeah, and well, when after the '88 Olympics in Seoul with Ben Johnson and the Dublin inquiry opened up, Canada did more by far than any other country to investigate its own programs with respect to doping. And the actions that came out of the Dublin inquiry, the number of records that got erased and times that got erased from the books, no country has come close to matching that level of zeal in terms of, like, oh boy, this is a problem. This isn't who we are. We're going to go back and correct it. So it doesn't surprise me that the reaction for this is the same. But I think you're bang on. I think, if you talk to a lot of other countries, it smacks a bit of the Houston Astros sign stealing thing. I don't know how you feel about that.
I hated that one.
You hated...
The sign stealing is part of baseball. They took it too far. They used technology in it.
Yeah.
And that's where it was like, I don't care about the sign stealing. Everyone does that. You use technology now, which no one does.
Yeah. And I think so I can get behind that because my thought around it all was like, listen, sign stealing happens in baseball. It happens. It's part of the game. Like the idea that, the whole part of baseball is, you slide in for the tag, you full well got tagged in the helmet before you're handed the bag. You get called safe. You're not arguing and saying, hey, you know what? No, my bad. You're staying. Like the whole part of baseball is you get the advantage you get within the rules.
Yeah.
But sign stealing is just something that's happened.
This happens for 100 years.
For 100 years,
and it's going to keep happening.
And it's ridiculous to think that if you're sitting there on the bench and you figured out a tell or a call, it's ridiculous to think like, well, I shouldn't say anything. That's not.
I'm just going to hold on to myself, but I'm not going to tell my teammates.
I'm just because that's between me and the Lord. Like, at some point you're going to be like, no, this is an advantage. I'm going to exploit this advantage. So.
And but if they win the goal, to me it'd remind me like maybe almost like the Tom Brady Deflategate when he got the Super Bowl for Roger Goodell. It'll be like when if they get their gold medals, there'll be that extra smile, and I'll be the one going like, yeah, take that, the rest of the world, up yours.
But there was also the Bill Belichick thing, right? Where he was he spying on the Jets, or there was that kind of.
You might be thinking of the Super Bowl walkthrough before the Rams Super Bowl. Was there that one that you're thinking about, Spygate?
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. Yes, that is what.
There was that there, and every teams do that. It happens all the time. The problem is you got caught. Like the issue I have with Canada soccer for this is that you did this at the Olympics. You're flying a drone at the Olympics, where there's more surveillance and security than anywhere else. What are you doing?
They could have done it better.
Where it's illegal to
kind of
fly
what
a
you're
drone.
getting at, right?
Yes.
Like flying the drone was illegal in itself. Like the issue that I have about this with is that what advantage were you looking to gain? Like two of the most high profile ones, and it's happened apparently widespread, but the two that first came to light was Canada's women's team with New Zealand, who they are ranked so much higher than, and the other was Canada versus Honduras, which
World Cup qualifying
again was a country that they're ranked higher than. So the idea that, like, I'm not saying that it excuses if you do that against Argentina. But at least Argentina, you could turn around and say, "Hey, look, we're
going up against Messi, guys. What do you want us to do?
We're in a hole here. We made a bad decision. We pulled out all the stops, and we were hoping maybe this would help us. But how are you excusing that against a New Zealand team, which, no disrespect to them, but are not a favorite where Canada is? That seems
the other part I'm really happy about is apparently Jesse Marsh, the new manager of the men's national team. One of the guys came up to him, one of the staff, and said, hey, do you want us to do this? And basically he was like, absolutely not. No. So like everything that happened at Copa America, legit.
Yeah.
It wasn't, Jesse Marsh didn't go about this. We don't have to worry about like, is there a disdain on how good of a Copa America we had? Nope. Yeah. He went the other way, and he's like, I'm not doing this. But
this is the thing too, because now apparently it happened under Herdman and Priestman and at the World Cup. And the men's and women's teams both collectively had horrible performances at both World Cups. So then, what's your reward on that?
We didn't cheat well enough.
Like
we weren't good enough at it.
Cheat better, guys.
Duck Dad, best response Canada should have over this would be say, quote, sorry about getting caught. We're still going to do this. Also, we don't care about anything Rick West has to say about anything. I know Rick West has getting a lot of heat for this. He is doing his job. He's got to go investigate, and this is what he does. And that's where like there's more investigating that came out today where it seems like this was a John Herdman thing. And he started this years ago that Bev Priestman continued with.
And she's like a Herdman disciple. Is like,
she was his assistant coach. She put in an email. That's part of. I didn't read the full thing today, where she asked HR. One assistant didn't want to film because he said it's cheating, and she sent an email to HR being like, "What could I do about this?" And it's like, "Why are you putting this in an email? Like, what? Why are you putting it so clear as day? What you're like? Hey, this person doesn't want us to cheat, but what can I do to get rid of him or something? Like, that's no, Bev, no, she's done. I don't see how she continues. And John Herdman's out of Soccer Canada anyway, so the only fear I have moving forward is maybe fines coming to Canada a little bit more. Yeah. We don't have the money for that federation. So before we end up here, what is it like working with, because you mentioned with the World Dodgeball Federation, you've got to get anti-doping, and what's it like dealing with doping and having the right regulations in place?
It's oh boy, that's a whole topic. I would say, so for dodgeball, in other sports there'd become a different bent on it, but for dodgeball, it's doping's not an issue. And I don't say that like, well, doping's not an issue in our sport, but there's no prize money, there's no glory, there's no high performance path that leads to the Olympics. There's not a lot of incentive to take that route. Now, I would never say that there aren't people in the sport that do it. There probably is somewhere, but it's like even with like something like ultimate or pickleball, again, like the people don't dope because
right now you're not getting a gold medal at the Olympics.
there's an incentive, there's a risk reward, right? And that just doesn't exist for our sport right now. So for us having to conform to WADA practices, like we have to do it if we want to take ourselves seriously and to demonstrate to the international community that we are serious about our sport and about athlete safety and about sport integrity. So we're introducing doping controls for the first time in Austria this year. We're going to do a handful of random tests. It's expensive, like it's not cheap to do it. If you do it through, like we're doing it through accredited third party in Eastern Europe because it's cheaper than if we go through Canada or the US. To become a signatory of WADA is a $30,000 out of the gate price tag. Oh, wow. I don't have $30,000. The sport doesn't have $30,000 for this, but we can still do our own doping controls and we can still have them validated by an accredited lab. So we're doing that as a way to, number one, prepare the players and prepare the federations for the fact like, look, like if you want this to be serious, if you really want to go down this path, these are the things we have to do. So the challenge right now is educating athletes and getting athletes who say, hey, I've got medication for ADHD. I have medication and a lot of these are on the ban list and there's processes to vet them, but this is all new ground for us. So it's important to do. We're glad we're doing it. It's expensive, but it's part of the sport development.
World Championships next week out in Austria. When do you head out?
I'm gone on the 9th.
Oh, very nice.
Next month, but starting tomorrow. So I'm gone the 9th.
Yeah, it's August to me right now. It feels that you're right. I guess we still are in July. And where can people find more information on the World Championship and just dodgeball in general?
Yeah, to go www.worlddodgeballfederation.com. If you do a search for Dodgeball World Championships, you'll come to us anyway. And our YouTube channel will have some information there. Or Twitch if you're a Twitch person.
I'm going to have to look it up that way. It is. I haven't done too much in Twitch, but it's huge. It's very big. So good luck with the World Championship and thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it. It was great. Thank you so much.
Love talking dodgeball. It was, it is fun. And I think most people that when they go play, like it reminds them of childhood and stuff. And it's good. Yeah. Like, hey, this was a lot of fun. Zach, Steph Curry of EST, good work today.
I'll take it. Thank you.
You're the, until I see otherwise, you are Steph Curry of Edmonton Sports Talk.
I'll never play basketball again.
I think that's, you want to know something?
Yeah. Good idea.
You're then just the champ. Dusty could then try to become the new, he could be the LeBron to you being the MJ.
Does he have to vacate the title though if a challenge?
Well, he'll have the history of it. Like that's the thing, right? Like he was at the time the greatest, and when Dusty was here, and then when he's no longer doing it, then Dusty's doing it against like me. Like what kind of? That's not really an accomplishment. It's not like he did it against Zach. So well done, Zach, on that. Duane Wysynski.
Perfect. Thank you.
There we go.
World Dodgeball Federation president. Once again, thanks for coming in. Best of luck with the World Championship.
Thanks so much.
Next week. Zachticum, great work there. Coming up next, it is the Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. And then at noon, it is the Oil Stream with Dusty and YouTube Trev. That's all coming up here on your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. Edmonton Sports Talk. Like I said, Lock Shop in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for tuning in on to the EST Hangout presented by Two Hoots.
Let's go. There you go, right in front of the camera.
First-time guest, long-time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Zola with here, joining us today.